All right. All right. So, introduce yourselves. Who are you guys and what you guys do?
Cornelius Bowser, pastor of Charity Apostolic Church, also a member of CAS, Community Assistance Support Team. And my primary work as far as in the community is dealing with violence prevention.
My name is Aramie Blake. I am the Director of Generation Justice, a youth and student-led activism and organizing organization. And I am a full-time restorative justice consultant and full-time activist. So
Cool.
I think when you have a love for people and a genuine heart for people, you really approach every population and generation almost in a sense of like no man left behind. And so I think no person has more value than the next person. Everybody is valuable. So when anyone wants to criticize, oh, you work with those little, heathens or whatever you want to call people, and particularly young people and young people of color, I say no, I work with the least of these. I work with those who have been underprivileged and underserved and haven't had the same equity and equality that others who do have privilege and grew up in certain communities and grew up in certain environments and were privy to certain things that these young people weren't, haven't had the same opportunities. And so I think the stigma doesn't bother me. It almost fuels the fire in me. It allows me to really see the injustices that happen not only in our communities of color, but throughout our country. And so for me, like I said, I'm here, I love people. I love serving people. I particularly love young people. And I know what pouring into young people can do and change their lives for the better. And so that's the work we do and why we do it.
And I would just say that, the way my approach, especially with dealing with the stigma and stereotypes and things like that, is work to reframe the narrative. I think like what we're doing here, media is very important. When you want to reframe the narrative on how the community is viewed. And so, my perspective is, sometimes, especially when you're before the media, they say, oh, gang violence. I said, well, no, it's individual violence, because when they think about gangs, the first thing they think about is black and brown people. And so try to dispel that stigma to see individuals and see people as humans. And one of the things that I always try to shift the thinking from is when people see violence, the first thing or crime, or see a community where it has a reputation for that, that stigma is, oh, these guys are dangerous, these guys are violent, these people are criminals, and so on. And try to reframe that narrative and say, wait a minute, these are human beings, these are people, as Aramie was saying, but also you have to look at the underlying issues. Why, if the person that you arrested with a gun, why did they have a gun? The person, are we dealing with trauma? Are we dealing with poverty? Are we dealing with a community that's been marginalized? What are the issues that we're dealing with? Are we dealing with a community that's being over-policed? Because when you talk about stats and look at stats, black people are rated somewhere about 12% of drug users are black, but I believe it's around 38%, 37% of the people that are arrested for drugs are black people. Up to 33 to 45% of the people that's in prison for drugs are black people. And that comes from a community being over-policed, where I've talked to white people that live in La Jolla and that lived in an all-white community, never was around black people. And what they said is their community was policed the way our community was policed. A lot of their folks would be going to jail for drugs and for having guns. And kids that have their dad guns in the glove compartment while they're going out, they would be in jail for those type of things. And so it's a lot of has to do with how our communities are policed and been marginalized, and a lot of it has to do with poverty. A lot of it has to do with fragmented systems. We have, in our, when you're talking about fragmented systems, you're talking about the school system, you're talking about even churches, talking about community-based organizations, and you're talking about all these different systems that have been fragmented and weakened through not having the proper resources to bring in to meet the community's needs. And so then when you have crime and you have all these different things that's going on, first thing people do is say, bring more police, lock people up, and that's the way the community look at them. So the way we try to get around that, work through that, is reframing the narrative and getting everyone in society and the communities to see, because even in our Black community, have bought into those narratives and see it the same way. And so we really have to, I believe through the media and through education, have to re-educate folks to understand and see the value of that these are human beings and their value in the community, and that works to change things.
I would just want to piggyback off of that. I was telling somebody the other day, while I was in New York actually, and I said, you know, I recognize that the majority of my work, you know, has really been rehumanizing folks.
Thank you.
Yeah. Rehumanizing humans,
yes.
Right? and showing people, when we talk about, you'll hear the word trauma-informed care. And what that is really understanding why, getting to the root. You see the fruits, right? You see the tree and the fruits that it has bared, but you haven't dug into the dirt and got to the roots of why this person operates the way they operate. What happened in their childhood and in their, preteens and teens and middle age. Like, what happened to cause them to operate the way they do? What was not provided for them? What was not nurtured? What was taken away? And so I think if we put ourselves in those shoes, some of us would have ended up in these same positions, right? If we had a different skin color, some of us would not be prosecuted or not be in trouble, even though we're doing the same types of things, right? But they haven't been dehumanized,
Right.
You know. And so I think part of our work is to rehumanize folks and tell people's stories and get to the roots of the fruits that they're actually producing.
Yeah.
That's really good. I think those are really good statements. I really like the example of the tree, and how like getting to the root is important, about why they bear the fruit that they do. But even more so, like people focus on the roots, but like they're not taking soil samples. Like, what's in the soil to make them, right? Like what's in the water to make them.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what do they are they? Is it really filled with nutrients, or is it filled with something else? So that's really good.
An environment that can nurture the proper things.
Yeah.
And so one of the other things that I had, like, I think I looked at this a couple years ago, but I had never considered, and a guy, I forget who did the research on this, but they was pointing out that even like fixing up your neighborhood, you know, the cosmetics of the neighborhood changes a mindset and an attitude about, psychologically, how persons see their community and so on. And so it's so many different things. And I think, when we talk about the soil, we have to nurture that, that fertilize, having good ground with so we have to have an environment that's going to nurture the right kinds of behaviors of what we have. And so it all goes back to this systemic and structural racism, right? And how when you're talking about the police, especially with blacks coming up even from slavery, when you talk about how the community of police has always been to oppress us. And so if you're arresting all the fathers and throwing them in jail, a lot of times people say, where the father? Well, you done stripped him of his manhood. And even when he gets out, he don't feel like a man or want to act like a man. And when I got in church, I was straight up gangbanger. When I had a son, Jay was my son. And I didn't know nothing about how to be a father. And nobody taught me how to be. People talked about me, but no one sat down to mentor me or to teach me, show me how to be a father. And I even found out that people in church was talking about me. And so I began to pray, and I began to, I went and bought books that were written by white men that's talking about how to be a husband and a father. And that's how I began, through scripture, and that's how I began to learn how to be a father. And of course, through my experiences and things like that. And so when we look at the nurturing aspect of it, we have to most definitely look at the family. And a lot of times people look at the family in a stereotypical, a negative way, like, the black family, the fathers come home and take them. No, you got to look at how the system has really torn apart that family and so on. And you have I don't agree with I understand what he's saying, but I don't agree with Jasper Williams when he's talking about, you know, the black family and the moms that. But for sure, we need, well, like you said, we do need mentors and people to come and assist in those homes. But black women have raised a lot of good young black men, you know, by themselves. And so, you know, to put that in a stereotypical way that, you know, but we know that you need two parents in the home to be able to, the way God designed it, to really be able to have that, to nurture that child the way they should. But I can tell you, if you have